Christopher, your South Florida yacht expert. And today we're talking about inlets, those channels that go from inland water to the ocean. Specifically the inlets here in Southeast Florida, ranging from northern Palm Beach County to Key Biscayne. We're also going to cover some key safety techniques and the best way to navigate inlets that apply to pretty much any inlet in the United States. From northern Palm Beach County, Jupiter Inlet, to south of Key Biscayne. And out of those 9 inlets, only 5 are maintained, marked with navigation buoys, and continually dredged by the United States Coast Guard, and therefore declared safe for passage. 4 of those inlets, although they have extensive boat traffic, are not maintained by the Coast Guard, are not declared safe for passage, and quite frankly, in certain conditions, can be very dangerous. For most recreational boaters, traversing an inlet is the most dangerous waters you will navigate on anytime you operate your recreational boat. So we're going to start with a few high-level safety considerations for any inlet anywhere, and then we're going to do a rundown of all 9 inlets from Jupiter Inlet to Key Biscayne. So the first thing to understand about navigating any inlet anywhere in the United States is it is potentially the most dangerous waterway you will navigate your recreational boat through. So the first thing you need to do is inform everyone on your boat, we're going to be going through an inlet. Everyone needs to be in a safe position, and a safe position means at the helm or behind the helm. The bow of the boat is the most dangerous place to ride. It's the most susceptible to up and down motion, and should water come over the bow in a dangerous situation, it's the way people get hurt. So, step 1, make sure all your passengers know we're going to be traversing a dangerous, potentially dangerous inlet, and everyone needs to be in a safe position on board your boat. Accidents and problems happen in inlets when you go either too fast or too slow. The best and safest way to operate your boat in an inlet is what I call the snowplow position. So all of you are familiar with, in a powerboat, as you're getting up on plane, before you get on plane, that boat is riding bow high and creating a big, huge wake behind it. It's inefficient, it's not where you want to operate your boat normally, but in an inlet, it is the safest orientation for your boat. You want your boat dug in, creating a huge wake with the bow towards the sky. Because now waves can't come over the bow, and in the case of Jupiter Inlet, when we're traversing that standing swell, water's moving, but the swell's not moving, we come up over the swell and back down the other side, keeping our bow towards the sky at all times. If we blast over that swell, when we come down the other side, the bow of our boat is going underwater, and we are in serious, serious trouble. So slow and steady, bow towards the sky, up over that standing swell. Another thing, and this applies to all inlets, is let's say big swells are moving into the inlet because it's an incoming tide. So there's no outgoing tide fighting those swells. In that case, we time our boat, we ride the back of a swell with our bow up, we time our throttle, ride the back of our swell all the way in. You never want to blast in at full speed, because if you go over a steep swell, when you come down the other side, you are going to be in trouble. A few more factors that apply to any inlet. Many of these 9 inlets can range from lake calm to scary dangerous. And there's a lot of factors that affect that, but the primary factor that makes an inlet dangerous or not is when you have an outgoing tide and you have a huge amount of water rushing out through a narrow passage, creating very swift currents, and those swift currents are colliding with an incoming swell from the ocean. Now, when you have an incoming swell meeting a strong outgoing tide, that's when you get the dangerous condition, especially in those inlets that are not U.S. Coast Guard certified safe for passage. And again, out of the 9, only 5 are U.S. Coast Guard declared safe for passage. So you want your passengers to be safe. It's always good to have your kill switch, your lanyard that connects to the kill switch on your ignition, because you would be amazed how often people fly out of their own boat, and if they don't have a kill switch, that boat is running on its own, creating a very dangerous situation. One other thing to remember that applies to any inlet is you may leave in the morning through whatever inlet you're traversing, very calm, placid waters. But at the end of the day, you may return to that same inlet and it is dangerous and chaotic. And that's because the tide may have changed or will have changed, and the swell may have increased. So if you return to your home inlet and it looks chaotic, you have a couple of options. Number 1, pause. Don't force an inlet passage. Number 2, watch other boats going through the inlet and see how they're experiencing these dangerous conditions. Number 3, if you're at a non-U.S. Coast Guard certified inlet, go to a different inlet. So for example, there have been times when I've been at Jupiter Inlet, I've returned after a long day, and it is chaos in that inlet. So I had to head south to the Palm Beach Inlet, which is a U.S. Coast Guard marked dredged inlet, come in and make the slow ride up the Intracoastal Waterway back to Jupiter, which is a much safer decision than trying to force a return entry through Jupiter Inlet, which at that time was very dangerous. But let's use Jupiter Inlet as an example. You left in the morning, it was nice and calm, you're returning at the end of the day, and now you have a big incoming swell against a strong outgoing tide, creating that big standing wave in the middle of the inlet, and you have shoals all around the entrance. So as you're approaching the entrance to the inlet, the first thing you're going to do is avoid any breaking waves. That's shallow water, that is danger. As you come into the inlet, accidents and problems happen in inlets when you go either too fast or too slow. The best and safest way to operate your boat in an inlet is what I call the snowplow position. So all of you are familiar with, in a powerboat, as you're getting up on plane, before you get on plane, that boat is riding bow high and creating a big, huge wake behind it. It's inefficient, it's not where you want to operate your boat normally, but in an inlet, it is the safest orientation for your boat. You want your boat dug in, creating a huge wake with the bow towards the sky, because now waves can't come over the bow, and in the case of Jupiter Inlet, when we're traversing that standing swell, water's moving, but the swell's not moving, we come up over the swell and back down the other side, keeping our bow towards the sky at all times. If we blast over that swell, when we come down the other side, the bow of our boat is going underwater and we are in serious, serious trouble. So slow and steady, bow towards the sky, up over that standing swell. Another thing, and this applies to all inlets, is let's say big swells are moving into the inlet because it's an incoming tide. So there's no outgoing tide fighting those swells. In that case, we time our boat, we ride the back of a swell with our bow up, we time our throttle, ride the back of our swell all the way in. As we go south in Palm Beach County, the next inlet we encounter is Boynton Beach Inlet. And Boynton Beach Inlet is not even designed for boats. It's designed for water flow or other factors, but it is a narrow concrete portal between the bay and the ocean, and it is always sketchy. Not considered safe by the United States Coast Guard, not considered navigable by the U.S. Coast Guard. So if you need to use Boynton Beach Inlet as your inlet, be very careful. Same rules apply. Passengers in the safe place on your boat, watch for shoaling at the entrance to the inlet. If swells are coming in, ride the back of that swell. Regardless of what's going on, use that snowplow attitude where your boat is dug in, driving with the bow up and creating a big wake. You do not want to be on plane. And Boynton Beach Inlet, because it's so narrow, make sure you maintain throttle and power all the way through, because those currents can be so strong. If you're not driving your engine and driving your boat through, you will get turned, tossed, and potentially smacked into those side concrete walls of the inlet at Boynton Beach. As we go south from Boynton Beach, still in Palm Beach County, the next inlet we encounter is the Boca Raton Inlet. And Boca Raton Inlet, if it's not high tide, is especially prone to sandbars and shoaling. It's another inlet that is not marked by the United States Coast Guard, not considered navigable, and really requires local knowledge. So the first time you do Boca Inlet, go at high tide. Less chance of getting in trouble. Watch what other boats are doing. There's no markings. You need to be very aware of what's happening. And just like any inlet, you're going to maintain that snow plow position all the way through the inlet until you approach the bridge inside the Boca Inlet, where everything calms down. So passenger safe, snow plow position of your boat, kill switch lanyard, and pay attention. Look for shoaling, look for breaking waves, look at other boats traversing the inlet. Take your time, and if it looks too sketchy, that's okay, because there is another inlet just south of Boca Inlet called Hillsboro Inlet, which is maintained, marked, and considered navigable by the United States Coast Guard. It's a short run. Anytime you're returning to an inlet that looks dangerous or sketchy in any way, stop, evaluate, consider your options. Often, if you wait till the tide turns an hour or two, your inlet's going to be fine. Or, in this case, in South Florida, from Boynton to Boca Raton Inlet is 20 minutes max, depending on conditions, and Hillsboro Inlet, which we're going to talk about next, is an excellent option. Hillsboro Inlet has a beautiful lighthouse, and hence the name Lighthouse Point of the nearby town. This Hillsboro Inlet has markers, it is dredged, it is considered navigable by the U.S. Coast Guard. One tip that I'll point out with Hillsboro Inlet, and really any inlet, is when you approach the inlet, don't come straight in from the side. Stay way out in the ocean until you're exactly lined up with the entrance to the inlet. In the Hillsboro Inlet case, there's markers. Look for your markers and proceed slowly, not too slow, snowplow position, straight through the inlet towards the bridge. Hillsboro Inlet is an excellent option and an excellent alternative to the Boca Inlet, which I really don't recommend unless you have local knowledge of the Boca Inlet. Hillsboro, as long as you're careful, is always going to be safe and navigable. So what causes challenges at those non-US Coast Guard approved inlets is number one, narrow, number two, shoaling, changing conditions, and number three, an unpredictability. So as shoals are moving, waves are moving, narrow passages with huge amounts of water going through, and that applies to places like Haulover, Boynton, Boca, Jupiter. Under certain conditions, those inlets can be incredibly dangerous. Don't force it. Either take your time, wait for conditions to change, or go to one of the other safer inlets, of which we're fortunate to have several here in South Florida. So this is Christopher, you're a yacht expert. Just giving you some high-level overview of our Southeast Florida inlets, the ones that are declared safe for navigation, the ones that aren't, and how you should consider and address the circumstances on each one. Thank you.